Hey everybody, Amalu here, and welcome to part 2 of me designing what the champions would have looked like 10,000 years ago. Now I know in the last video I said that the Goron video should be out soon, but I kept on having issues finding places to record. One of them being that the supposedly soundproof room I booked was not soundproof at all. But I actually have a place where I can record consistently now. So hopefully in the coming months I'll be able to put out a lot more things. I'm excited. But without further ado, let's get designing our Goron Champion. So the Goron Champion was a little bit difficult right off the bat, just because I think I mentioned in the Rito video I wanted to try to mimic their poses and make them look a little bit more like the silhouette on the tapestry. And as you can kind of see, the Goron on this tapestry is weirdly skinny. And so I decided I wanted to make him probably a little bit thinner than normal Gorons you saw, but that was kind of difficult because there aren't really reference images for skinny Gorons because they're all big and bulky. I also struggled with his arm position. I think in the tapestry it looks like he's holding his arms straight out, but I also decided it kind of looks like he's holding some kind of weapon. So I tried sticking his arm straight out at first, but then decided that I actually wanted to go with the weapon route. And I decided that the weapon he's holding is a pickaxe, because I think that would just suit the Gorons very well. I know they have like hammers and stuff, but I think, well, they have a bunch of mines, so why not a pickaxe? It took me a while to figure out exactly how I wanted the pickaxe to be positioned and how much his arm should be bent and the position of his hand, but in the end I decided to go with having his pickaxe like slung over one shoulder and then his arm is bent, and I think I like that. Another difficult thing was his eyes, and just his face in general, because Goron have really small and like beady eyes, and I tend to draw like really big eyes if you haven't noticed this already. But yeah, also I noticed on the tapestry, it looks like this Goron has really long flowing hair, so I decided to give him a ponytail. And I know a lot of Gorons have ponytails, but they're usually like short and just sticking out of their head. So I thought it could be fun and more like the tapestry if this Goron had a really long, luscious ponytail. And that was really hard to draw, and I spent a long time trying to figure out how to make it look flowing, but also, like, having it sit in a good place, and it was just kind of difficult. And I think one thing that threw it off at the beginning is I didn't give him any facial hair, and I realized that most of the Gorons, like, at least the important ones, have, like, beards and stuff. So I decided that he was probably gonna have to have a facial hair too. So I gave him this beard that also has a ponytail, so I could just tie that element back into his design. And I based it heavily off of the boss's beard. Though I think the boss's beard probably has like 3 different ponytail parts and he only has 1. I also haven't really drawn beards that much, so this was a bit of a learning experience for me. I don't think it helped that he doesn't have ears, because usually I base the whole face around the ears. Another thing that was kind of unique about drawing a Goron is they don't really have as in-depth of fashion as like the other tribes do. I guess the Zora could be a little bit different too. But this one was really hard for me to decide what he would wear, because I didn't want him to look too much like Daruk or any of the other Gorons, but it's hard because you have really limited options. So I ended up going with this kind of sash, and I knew there had to be a sash because there's like a red diagonal line on the tapestry. And I kind of, I don't know, gave him these little, I have no idea what to call them except for flaps, but you kind of see them in Yunobo's design, so I decided to keep them. And then I kept the iron wristbands because I think they just really fit the Gorons, and I really liked them on Daruk. Originally I was going to make his sash a chain, but decided that that looked too much like Daruk, so I made it a rope. I also decided to give him one of those kind of like helmet things that a lot of the warriors you see in Goron City wearing. And I think it just makes him look a little bit more battle ready. And I know at some point I give him an eye patch. I wasn't going to do that at first because I thought it would make him look too much like the boss. But I also realized there's only one dot where his face should be on the tapestry, and I interpreted as that being one eye. So I gave him an eye patch, and the eye patch is made out of metal. And now for his personality. To be honest, I really didn't think about his personality as in-depth as I thought about the Ritos. And I think it's just because a lot of the Gorons tend to have very similar personalities. And I wonder if it's just because they're the big, bulky rock characters. And I know Yunobo was just like a complete deviation from that, but that's why he worked, was because he was just a opposite of what the Gorons have been doing the entire time in terms of personality. I think I decided the path I'm going to take with him is he's very down to earth, and I know, haha, earth. But I think he's just very level-headed. He tends to think things through pretty clearly. He will like tell you if you're gonna do something stupid, and he'll be honest but not completely like rude. He just thinks that going in without a plan is kind of foolhardy, and that you should probably think a little bit before you act. And I think probably because of this kind of attitude, maybe because he's a little bit older than some of the other champions, he might take on a kind of leadership role. And I guess I should mention, I feel like for his backstory I decided he's either a veteran soldier or a veteran miner, and maybe a little bit of both. So I think that's why he has like the warrior head, helmet, mask thing, and he also carries around a pickaxe. And he's very passionate about protecting the people he cares about and just standing up for the people who can't defend themselves. I mentioned in the Rito video, but I wanted to give all the champions kind of like a superpower, because all the champions in Breath of the Wild kind of have a superpower. And I think I decided his is combustion, meaning he can make things explode. And I thought that would be perfect for probably somebody who used to work in the mines, and it would be really useful in combat, but he would also have to strategize about when he used his power, because if he just used it willy-nilly, he could like make a lot of people get hurt. But yeah, this drawing was just really hard for me to do the line art for, just because I feel like there's a lot of things going on that I really wasn't used to. But I mean, in the end, this is why I started doing this particular project, was to challenge myself and draw things that I'd never drawn before, or wouldn't otherwise draw. I also think there might be a few clips missing of me doing the line art, and possibly coloring too. And I think this time it was my program just timing out. I think it's about an hour or maybe an hour and a half. If I start drawing over that, it just stops recording, which is really annoying, so I need to find a better program recording thing. I think at first I really wasn't sure how to actually like color in the lines of his hair, and so I think I go with this like really thick, weird, busy thing, and I ended up really not liking it, so I think I redo it later on, and it looks at least a little bit better. But you can kind of notice I spent way longer on this sketch than I have in pretty much any of my other videos or drawings, and I think it's just because I was struggling with making the Goron look like a Goron. And I guess you'll see this again in the next video, spoiler alert, with the Gerudo, which I think is going to be one of the longest videos I've made to date. But yeah, you can kind of see for part of his design, I added tattoos, which on some of the earlier designs for Gorons, like I'm thinking Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess, they gave the Gorons like markings or tattoos, which I think adds a lot of like, I don't know, just a little bit more style to characters that otherwise just look a little plain, in my opinion. I feel like I should mention there was a kind of stone that I was kind of basing him off, but really loosely. It's I think a volcanic stone, and I don't remember the name, but this is what it looks like. So because of that, I originally was going to make him have a kind of darker skin tone, and I think there are Gorons that have that darker skin tone, but for some reason I completely forgot about them, because when I started drawing it, I'm like, oh, this looks really weird for some reason. And so I changed it to the normal Goron skin tone. But then later, like after I thought I was done with this drawing, I realized there are Gorons with the darker skin tone, even in Breath of the Wild. So I actually go back and change it, but that's like, I don't even think I recorded me changing it in the end because it was such a last minute thing. And I guess the thing with the Gorons too is the colors are kind of decided for me already. I know for the hair, I had to do this kind of like creamy white-ish color. So that was a little bit hard to see against a white background. I think if I was going back and doing it now, I would have made the background a little bit darker so I could make sure I was coloring it in okay. And also, for those of you who are worried, don't worry, I go back and I color in the line art for his tattoos and I make them more of the same cream color. I was not going to keep them black the entire time, I promise. There's a method to my madness. I also went back and colored in the rocks like on his shoulders. And they're kind of supposed to be a dark brown, but a little bit with a reddish tint to match more of the stone I wanted him to be based off of. I think if I was drawing him again now, I would probably add the stripes that you see in the original stone because I think that just would add so much flavor to his character. I also gave him dark blue eyes because when I was looking at pictures of Gorons, I think that was like the color that most of them had. So I just kept it. Also, pretty much all of his accessories, meaning like the wristbands and the ankle bands and his helmet, are all made of metal. So I colored them in this kind of reddish gray. I guess gray with like a red tint. And then I go back and actually I think add some red dots on all of them because I thought he was kind of lacking in color. I think there is a splash of red on his helmet when I made the Goron symbol. And I try to bring the red back too in, I guess, the very little clothes that he has. So, I don't know. This was just very challenging because it was so limited for me. And I don't know. I feel like I did the best that I could, but if I could do it again, I probably would have found new ways to work around it too. think he was really hard for me to shade just because there are so many unfamiliar shapes that I was dealing with, and he doesn't quite wear the same type of like clothes or have the same type of build that I normally give my characters. So I think you can see that I'm struggling a bit. Oh, and this episode is the very first one where I'm introducing hair shading. This is something I'm still really new at, and I honestly have really no idea what I'm doing, but I think it makes the characters look a little better, at least in the method I'm experimenting with, just because it's a little weird to like shade the character and not their hair. So this is my first attempt, maybe we'll see how I improve from here. But yeah, here he is. And as you can see, I went back and changed his skin tone so it's a little bit darker. He was really challenging for me to draw, but in the end, I don't think he looks too bad. For my first time, like, trying to draw Goron, I think he turned out alright. If you have any suggestions for what to name him, or the Goron Champion, you can stick them down in the comments because I honestly have no idea. Also, I have seen the couple of requests for other Strawberry Shortcake characters, and yeah, I'm really excited to get to those actually, and I promise I will get to them. I just want to finish my Breath of the Wild Champion series first. And hopefully that should be done pretty soon here because I have a better place to record my audio, which is honestly the thing that takes me the longest. So be on the lookout for the Goron Champion video because that should be coming up next. But yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more amateur artists trying character design, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!